Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're discussing one of the most requested watches in the history of my channel. This is the Glashutte Original Vintage 70s Chronograph Panorama date. You can see and you can purchase this versatile 100-meter water-resistant automatic flyback chronograph with 70-hour power reserve and vintage style on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right-hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high-resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Vintage 70s Chronograph Panorama date. Now, this is part of a model line that debuted in 2014 and quickly became a sensation. Glashutte Original is a wonderful, fully integrated manufacturer that truly does make every part of a watch, right down to building their own tools and training their own tool makers. But if they've struggled at all, it's in capturing the mind share of a public that responds principally to design and iconic shapes rather than in-house savoir-faire and the more esoteric elements of creating the machine. This watch bucks the trend by combining all of those virtues of the manufacturer with a style that's immediately identifiable with the brand and charismatic and compelling objectively. So on my wrist, 16 centimeters in circumference, you can see the watch is basically a 40mm cushion case. 40mm across the round of the case from 9 to 3, not inclusive of the crown guards, or the chronograph pushers. It has approximately the same measurement from bezel end to bezel end, but if you were to measure the outer extremities of the case, now you've got a still very manageable 50.3mm, with the key distinction that the hinge point of the strap on each side is inboard of the outer portion of the case. So the actual distance between the pivots of the strap is less than 50mm across the wrist, and I always consider that to be the critical measurement for folks like myself who have 14 to 16 centimeter wrists. Is the watch less than 50mm across the wrist? And thanks to the underslung style of this strap, which is inboard of the exterior of the case, yes, this one does have that. It's also fairly slim in profile. It's not the 13.5 that Geo says it is, but it is a relatively reasonable 14.3. And with a sort of cup-shaped case back, once you've strapped it down to your wrist, it sits lower. With a generously sloped case flank, you'll have no trouble fitting it underneath a jacket, a suit jacket, a sport jacket, a blazer sleeve. It is comfortable, it is practical, it is versatile. And with this beautiful gray anthracite sunburst dial, the white metal of the steel case, and a highly versatile but all the same dress-appropriate rubber strap, this is a timepiece that can go just about anywhere you do. Now I'm going to take it off and give you a better sense of the case. I did say it was cushion-shaped, and in the 70s fashion, it is that. Integrated lugs and case band. You'll also note once more just how inboard the pivot points of that strap are, and you can pull the strap straight down without constraint. It doesn't want to flare out and fight the curve of your wrist. The strap is nicely made and substantial. It's thick with a strong spline down the center to give it character. It also has a number of arced case lines that echo the termination of the case itself, so it's almost like you see these ripples or echoes of the case band diminishing down the strap. They give it definition, they give it sharpness. There are no default designs here, and you'll note on the underside plenty of hollows and channels to allow the wrist to aerate on a hot day. It doesn't sit flush to the wrist, it is slightly supported just above with exits for moisture, heat, sweat, and grit. The clasp is substantial, as you can see. This one's fairly fresh. Alternately satin finished and polished, the double finish is both handsome and speaks to the attention to detail lavished on the entire timepiece. Now, if it has one quirk, it's that you do have to set the size of the strap in the hole you desire with a setting screw. Other than that, once you've got dialed in for your size, you're going to find that it's a perfect fit every time. And again, on an expensive and substantial watch, I would never trade a deployant for a pin buckle, so we're off to a flying start here. The case is iconic in its shape, but beautiful in its details. This is where the level of effort really tells. You'll note that the lug hoods featuring the polished center and the satin finished outers make for excellent contrast. It's a big chunk of metal, but it doesn't read that way on the wrist, thanks to the slim satin finished case band and the contrast with the polished case flank bevel that actually expands as it moves away from the lug, grows full through the case band, parallels the lip of the bezel, and then fades away and tapers down again at the opposite side. You'll also note that there is a step between the case back and the case band to further break up the vertical mass of the steel. The watch is all about the dial. Once we get rid of the iconic shape of the case, you're left with a dial that succeeds on every count because it echoes the shape of the case, but it also works well to convey information. Anthracite sunburst, created in Glashutte Original's Pforzheim, Germany dial manufacturer. They do make all the pieces of the watch. The sunburst is richly grained and radial, and you can see as I move it in my light box, it has an explosive response to indirect diffused light. It's even more glittering and explosive in direct sunlight. Now, all of the indices are hand-applied, faceted, and diamond polished. The hands at center stand out beautifully against the dial base, and yes, the watch is luminescent, so it's a true sports watch in that sense. You'll note that the chronograph system, we're going to start it up right here, is a flyback, but there are other details of the movement evident in the dial. You have chronograph seconds, chronograph minutes, and then at center at 12, scrolling chronograph hours with a white on black print. There is a constant seconds dial at 9 o'clock, but I want to emphasize that it contains its own miniature power reserve scale. I'm going to screw out the crown here because it is a screw down crown. Watch the power reserve scale as I wind the watch manually. It transitions from white to black, so you can always keep track of the watch, which has a 70 to 77 hour power reserve per Glashutte Original, and the power reserve energizes a flyback style chronograph, and that's an impressive deluxe appointment for the caliber 3702, which is one of the newest calibers in the Geo quiver, having originally debuted as part and parcel of this package back in 2014. What you'll also like about the dial is that it has the Panorama datum, the double-digit date. This is adjusted with a pusher adjuster on the flank, but in every other respect, the movement is contemporary. The pusher adjuster is the one weird quirk, but the screw-down crown does give you the ability to hack or stop the movement in standard fashion. Turning the watch over, the watch has a number of unusual qualities, one of which is a strange on-off caseback indicator, which is a little bit weird and wonderful. I'm going to see if I can get closer here. Okay. Now you can see there's a little slider. Go away, rotor. Stop spoiling my fun. There is a little slider adjacent to an on and an off label, and if I can get enough leverage. As I cycle the function of the chronograph, it displays on or off as viewed from the caseback. Now you can see, you also have a view of the column wheel and its interaction with the levers and horns of the chronograph. The watch beats away at 4 Hz or 28,800 vibrations per hour. Once more, 100 meters water resistant despite the display case back. This is an all-arounder. Now you can see that the style of the bridge is 3/4. Although it is broken up, it is not a true pocket watch style 3/4 bridge. It's a loving homage to the style of old Saxon pocket watches. You'll also note the hand-finished double sunburst spiral of the reduction wheel for the automatic winding system, and you'll note kiln-fired, heat-oxidized blue screws, not the chemically dyed kind. There is a nice combination of hand-finishing and machine-assisted finishing here. It is not entirely hand-finished or machine-finished. It's a medley of the two, both elements nicely conceived and then executed to the highest degree. This is exactly the level of finish that you'll see on the likes of revered Swiss names like Girard-Perregaux, Zenith, and Jaeger-LeCoultre in mainstream products. So you're not giving up anything to those folks across the southern border. This is a handsome and versatile watch that hits on all cylinders. With a modern movement of vintage style and timeless appeal, you can see and you can purchase this vintage 70s chronograph Panorama date on our website.